are now listening to a Super Breakdown production. Follow us at The Super Breakdown on all social media. Thank you.
Welcome to the Super Breakdown, where we take your favorite heroes and villains, break them down, and then open up a multiverse of possibilities with one question: what if? Alright, so you already know what it is. I'm your host, Power Maximus, and I'm here with everyone's favorite demigod,
Lord Triage.
And today, we decided to go off the beaten path a little bit. We did have one person planned for today, but we decided to flip it up last minute, so this is probably going to be coming to you a little bit late. But today we are talking about the Daywalker himself, Eric Brooks, or everyone must know him as Blade. Alright, so this character, I love this character so much just because, one, I'm drawn to a lot of African American characters, a lot of black characters. But for the most part, the biggest thing I like about this character is like his origins. At least the new origin. Actually, even then, I can't even say that because there's multiple origins for him. There's one where, like he didn't have any of these powers or abilities. He was just like a normal vampire hunter. And then, he ends up getting bit by, Morbius.
Yes.
And then, pretty much his blood reacts with, Morbius's, blood or whatever it is that, vampires inject him with and end up giving him the powers of a vampire. He had all the strengths and all the great things about being a vampire. Just without any of the weaknesses to sunlight, silver, garlic, any of that. There's that one. I like that one. But then there's like the older one where, but just the other one, which the movies went off of, where like he was, his mother was bitten by her doctor, who was a vampire while she was giving birth. And, so he ended up being born like half vampire or whatever. I don't know. I personally like the second one more than the first one. I know I'll probably mess up on the last one. The second one I like more than than him being bit by Morbius and going that route.
Well, I honestly thought they were going to tie all that together with the movie. That's where I thought was going to go, but
yeah, because it felt a little weird to have Mahershala Ali's Blade, at least his voice, appear. Well, spoilers. Just want to let you know. Spoilers here. If you haven't seen Eternals, it's a spoiler for Eternals. So, I just found it weird that to have his voice at the end of that, at the end of Eternals for that cutscene, rather than tie him in with Morbius. Because Disney owns Fox. Fox owns New Line. Blade was a New Line film. So it would make sense if they did gave it the same Spider-Man treatment and gave it to Sony. Because I mean, there's two studios that I think would be able to make a real good Blade movie like the first two.
Oh, I'm all ears. Go ahead.
I think Universal could do a great movie with him, but I also think Sony will be able to do a great movie with him. At least
I was going to say Lionsgate.
Marvel standards. Lionsgate, yeah. But also if you wanted to make Blade Asian.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
Listen, I'm just saying, I had to spin that because I feel like they don't get talked about enough. Their production studios are grade A. So we was talking about good studios, so I was like, alright, I just want to like slip that in there a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I can see Lionsgate. I can see that. The reason why I say Universal is because, I've seen, like, we're gonna cut out the Mummy that they did with Tom Cruise. We're gonna cut that out, but I like what they did with Wolfman. I thought Wolfman a few years back was great.
Oh, with Benicio del Toro, that movie was phenomenal. That movie does not get enough recognition, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, same thing with the other movie they made that was supposed to go with that, Dracula Untold. Dracula Untold was an amazing movie as well. But
I've not sat through that.
You got to, bro. It's great. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. And then they end up killing the run with the Mummy. But I feel like they've shown that they can do, first off, they've shown that they can do a vampire movie. They've shown they can do a vampire movie. So, I think they will be able to do a good job with Blade. And didn't Universal do the Underworld movies?
I'm not sure, honestly, off the top of my head.
Yeah, because I was thinking they did, and that also ties into like my reasoning behind saying that they could do a great Blade movie. I mean, I feel like I'll say this way: whatever studio did the Underworld movies, I really feel well. Last time I checked, Underworld was like a collaborative thing. It was between Sony and Columbia Pictures mainly. So I mean, I think that's what I think.
My whole thing with stuff like that is that if we're doing it and it's planned out fine, we can run with it. Like, don't switch producers or directors, or don't do this or do that, because it's like those movies started all solid, but they kind of became like a train wreck around number 4, I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, well, we can say the same for Blade.
Listen, we're not speaking of Hannibal King.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Like, I felt like the Blade Trinity had a lot of potential, but it most certainly 100% fell short, big time.
Well, here's my issue with that, and it's like, if we're gonna follow something based off a certain level of grit in a character's development and psyche, we have to stick to that. Blade's biggest thing is that he doesn't work well with others. There's a lot of characters in the Marvel universe that are the same way. So same thing with DC. Like, Batman's constantly saying how he's not a part of the Justice League, yet he's hands down their number one tactician. He's the brains behind the league. So,
and I'll say this: a lot of times, as they're portraying Batman, they're portraying him as the leader.
Very true.
So yeah, and wow, now I'm really thinking about that. Yeah, I didn't really think about that for Blade Trinity. That I feel, yeah.
So like with him,
his character, trying to have his character like work with these other unestablished characters, 2 barely developed, characters, and
then it's like they had the tech and they had the aspect and shit. Like, they could fight, all right, but it's, just because you box doesn't mean you should just because you can box doesn't mean you should get in the ring with Mayweather. And like he said it, like, this is a joke, this is funny. Nah, this is my life. This is what I do. I was literally born and bred for this shit. And y'all are doing this because you're mad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that, honestly, even then, he wouldn't even work with the Harkness Foundation, or the Harkness Foundation, who were in the original run for Blade, who were like the main vampire hunters at that time. And he's, correct me if I'm wrong, he said, nah, I'm gonna kill Dracula by myself, and then I'm gonna go kill Deacon as well.
Yeah, so, Deacon Frost.
The mascara is running.
honestly, I feel like them killing him off the way they did in that first movie. Well, once again, they probably had no clue they were going to get greenlit for a sequel.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I feel like I love that actor, and I love the way he played that character, and I love the way they wrote that character. I would have loved to see him carry forward.
right, like he was the upstart with the big ideas, and the purebloods hated him for it. But what little shit he did, I couldn't help but like his character.
Absolutely. Like, he did it with swagger because, like, I've noticed in a lot of situations like that as they're writing it, it's not, like, they'll have a character that's that cocky, but have no backing. He was cocky because he knew full well, he had it down to a science, that the elders weren't going to be able to pull it off. But he also knew that they weren't going to entrust him to pull it off. So all he had to do was just take out the head of the table and become the head of the table. So I feel like his swagger and just the way they wrote that character was just hands down. I don't think they could have did any better.
Okay.
I mean, because technically, if I remember correctly from the dialogue in the first movie from that scene, he's the baby. He's only been around for like 100 years or so, I believe they said. He was a baby. And what I would have liked is I would have liked actually seeing Deacon at least get to number 2. Be the one, and then in 3, be the one to resurrect. Actually, no. Don't see him in 2, because 2 was great. Don't change 2 whatsoever. But then we see Deacon come back in Blade Trinity and be the one that is resurrecting Dracula. And then Dracula ends up killing him because it's like, boy, you weak, you trash. Get out of here. I'm the real deal.
Well, here's the funny thing with the sequel. Originally they were supposed to end the first one with with that whole scene where they're on top of the building where he goes, there's a war going on. You keep your cure. You want to help me make me a better serum. And there was supposed to be somebody else like a few roofs away who was supposed to be revealed to be Morbius. And then she's like, looks like you're back on the clock, and he's supposed to draw his sword and jump into the fight. But they scrapped that. What? So that was the second movie. Yeah, the second movie was supposed to be about him dealing with Morbius. But they completely scrapped that for the whole thing with the Reapers. And here's the thing with the Reaper story, because I actually thought that whole thing was great. From the puppets to the makeup to my son Luke Goss playing Jared Nomad. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But none of that is comic accurate. It's completely from the mind of Benicio del Toro. Which I tip my hat to him for that.
Absolutely. I feel like, I mean, even then, how often do you get sequels that are all around better than the first one?
Captain America: The Winter Soldier, The Dark Knight.
But still, that's years later.
Sound like? Yeah, this is true.
Because back then that was the time where sequels were not that good. Sequels were always money grabs.
We don't need another incident like Speed.
God, yeah. Jeez. But it did really well because it was. I feel like because it was a unique storyline. It was a unique storyline. People hadn't seen it before, but on top of that, nobody was really reading Blade comic books back then.
Right.
Nobody knew much about Blade. I'll be honest with you. My first time hearing about Blade was the movie.
For me, it was Spider-Man the Animated Series.
I take it back. Me too. I take it back. Wait. What came first?
It was definitely Spider-Man.
Yeah. I believe Spider-Man was the one that really kicked off a lot of the hype for him.
Yes, And I believe that's also where we got our first look at Abraham Whistler, because I believe that they created him in the show, sort of like the way they did Harley Quinn, to give him like, guidance and a familiar character, someone for him to coordinate with. But
Yeah,
even,
like a man in a chair.
yeah, even Batman checks in with Alfred from time to time. So it's like, I like that aspect. I thought that was cool.
To his
What'd you say?
humanity. It's like a person that like they give him a character that keeps them rooted to their humanity.
Yeah.
Because I feel like without Whistler, Blade would have been snapped.
Well, that's just like how you were talking before earlier about his powers and his abilities. The one thing that everyone always says, while he does age slow, a little bit slower than the average human, he does still have the thirst for human blood.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, we see him, he's working on this serum, try to help him stave off the bloodlust. But if I remember correctly, like that bloodlust was, well, the serum that he was taking, it wasn't like he inhales it and it gets rid of the urge or the craving. But if I remember correctly, it actually gives him not blood, but like a substitute for that, which is why it's not like an actual full cure, or like it's not like it actually like satiates his thirst.
Right.
But it's just like a substitute to like, to calm it down a little bit. It's like you wanted a burger, but they give you a Beyond Burger. It's a burger. You're not going to be hungry, but you're not going to be satisfied.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So that honestly, I find that cool, the way they really press the fact that he is battling between, his humanity and the, vampire side. Like, I'm gonna say that's a power right there in itself. Not to mention, like, he's an expert martial artist. Boxing, capoeira, jeet kune do, jiu-jitsu, certain forms of karate, kung fu, ninjutsu. He's a sword master, and my boy can get it dirty in the streets.
Don't forget he's a crack shot.
Oh, don't forget. Can't forget the shotgun. Can't forget he nasty with a shotgun, nasty with pistols. I never see him use an assault rifle.
Do we really want Blade running around with an AR? I'm
just saying. I can see him running around with an AR with like mini stakes in it as bullets.
Alright, and you know what image just popped in my head is that picture of Kermit with the assault rifle. Is that what you want?
I mean, if you look at it though, Underworld pulled it off really well. Vampires running around with guns. Didn't she use swords at one point doing something? Yeah.
But that was also them dealing with Lycan, so that was them having the silver for a little bit of a different effect and reason. So them using bullets made sense. Opposed to him, who he hit somebody with a silver round, he turned to ash.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think Blade could learn a thing or two from them. He running around using silver stakes. They got UV rounds. One bullet got the power of the sun in it, bro.
Yeah.
My bro Edward Cullen would have been a whole freaking disco ball, bro. Yo, he would have turned Edward Cullen into a whole disco ball. That's really how that should have ended.
He said a disco ball. But, yeah. Well, phasing from the movie aspect more towards the comics.
Yeah.
We got our first appearance being in July of 1973 in the Tomb of Dracula. Now, I find it funny that they give Dracula his own run like that to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So what were we saying?
It's number 10 back in 73.
Yes. And I find it very interesting they gave him his own run like that to begin with, but my whole thing is the way they introduced him and how they went about it, because originally it was just that he had been immune to the bite because he had been infected in utero. And so that made him the perfect hunter, because once he was trained, he was immune to the bite. So even if they tried to attack him, if they couldn't kill him, he just kept coming.
Mm-hmm.
Then a few years later, they retconned that whole thing with him having the running with Morbius and Morbius biting him, and then him inheriting the powers, but not the thirst.
Oh, and yeah, I forgot he didn't have the thirst in the when they did that run.
Right. So like I that's why I said, like, I'm really confused at how they did this whole thing with Morbius, unless they're going to set that up in the original Blade movie. They're going to do it like that, where he's immune to the bite at first, and then lo and behold, he has this run-in with him, and then Morbius accidentally makes a monster out of a monster.
Mm-hmm. So no, that does make a little more sense that they were to do it that way. Yeah, he's immune to the bite, but that's of a regular vampire who's technically undead. What happens if he gets bit by the living vampire?
Right.
So to me, I feel like that would have made more sense, and they would have been able to drag the movies out a little bit longer without them getting weird. But they weren't thinking that far. They weren't thinking that far back then. Now bringing it forward, we did also see him in, which my favorite time to see him was definitely in Spider-Man the Animated Series.
Yeah, that thing with him riding the Harley with the laser sword, he was literally running around Manhattan with a lightsaber.
My man is driving on roofs in a Harley, bro. Think about that. He was riding on rooftops in a Harley.
Hey, man, it worked for Johnny Blaze.
But Johnny Blaze is a whole demon, bro. Physics doesn't matter to him.
He said physics doesn't matter.
He sits down on his motorcycle, and his motorcycle becomes a demon. It can do whatever it wants at that point. It literally drives itself.
You're not wrong.
And I just thought about it. Where were the cops? You think you in New York, you in Queens, you see a black man driving across rooftops on a motorcycle, you not gonna call the cops?
Listen, man, but that's just like that scene when he was in the hospital when security shot him. What did he do? He turned around, looked him in their face, said, "So are you crazy? You motherfuckers out your mind?" What was they going to do exactly? But still, son, this is the New York of the Marvel of the Marvel universe. At this rate, giant green people who are half naked, young boys flying on fire, and a kid in tights swinging through the city by webs that shoot out of his wrist. This shit is normal.
You right.
Like you make it sound like they're going full on to Django. Why is that nigga up on that nag? Like, nah. The question that they're asking is, why are you asking why he's up on that nag? This is a normal day thing here.
You got a whole point right there, bro. Wow.
Like, did you see that? Yeah, he does it every Thursday.
Oh yeah, that's Tom. See, oh man. Wow, yeah, I'm really thinking about that now. Damn, yeah, I'm stupid. Well, we see Blade. Of course, we got the movies. Of course, we got the comic books. We got Spider-Man animated series. But Blade also got a live-action TV show and an anime. Which I've
never seen the anime.
Yeah, I just found out about it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm interested in watching it. But from that one scene that I saw, yeah, I'll give it a shot. It looked like a I'd say mid 2000 anime based off the graphic design of it all. But interesting. But
Sort of reminded me of like Ninja Scroll.
yeah. But now, jumping onto the whole live action TV show factor, we get to see Blade not portrayed by Wesley Snipes. Portrayed by the none other than only Sticky Fingers. Which threw me all the way off when I first saw this. When I first watched this a few years back, because it was on Spike. It was on a Spike. And it just threw me off because I'm like, yo, I can't. Like, I personally couldn't because I feel like Wesley Snipes played such a hands down dope Blade that like nobody else could play him. Like Blade, like Wesley Snipes to Blade was the original Robert Downey Jr. to Iron Man.
God, don't bring up that iron cunt.
What?
Well, I hear what you're saying with that. I agree because I had my grievances with him playing that part, but I don't think he did a bad job. It's one of them things like where he was going to get compared to Wesley or whoever played it before, regardless. I mean, shit, we've had several Jokers and we still argue over who's the best amongst 2 or 3 of them, and there's ones that should be in an argument that aren't. Now, with this scenario, it's one of those things like where the television aspect allowed us to go more down the rabbit hole with him. And like, the whole thing about how they explain like how he actually met Whistler and the reason why Whistler walked with that leg brace is because when he first meets him, he tried to kill him and Blade shattered his kneecap. Like, I thought that was cool the way they tied that in. Or like another thing, or like another thing was like everyone talks about like Blade's tribal tattoos. Come to find out they were gang symbols.
Didn't know that. I don't know, like you said, this I watched the series so long ago.
Little things were very vivid to me. Like there was the story got told that he was living on the street feeding off the homeless after he had a falling out with his father. Like his father had locked him in his room and like he was giving him pig's blood originally, but the pig's blood was making him sick. Then his father wound up involved with a nurse, and the nurse was smuggling blood from the hospital. And then this is how he wound up being introduced to Whistler, because Whistler found out about it. Whistler figured, we have a weapon we can train him to use against the enemy. Then like he saw his raw power and he was like, yeah, we might need to put him down. And Blade's like, yeah, not on my watch, nigga. So he winds up living on the street for a little period of time. And there was a gang, I remember something correctly, they were called the Bad Bloods. And it's supposed to be that they used to tag each other, they used to tattoo each other after missions. So someone that was just getting inked in and he smelled it. He smelled the blood from the tattoo and he came in saying how he was starving. So they went to go help him. And next thing you know, he fed off all them. But when he fed off them, he turned him.
Oh.
Yeah. And then years later, some of them came back after him.
Yo, I gotta sit down and watch this again now. Cause now I'm interested. I wasn't interested back then because I was still in my Wesley Snipes is the greatest type phase, because he was in everything back in the day. He was an A-lister back in the day. So I was riding on that. But now I'm really gonna get into that show a little bit more.
Right.
Now the anime, I really wish I knew more about the anime. But I just find it awesome that like we see him have all these different abilities. Of course, he has the super strength of a vampire. Of course, he has the heightened senses of a vampire, the heightened strength of a vampire. Speed, stamina, endurance, all that. But even though
he also has hypnosis.
What?
Yeah.
Ain't nowhere did I ever see him. Nothing say this man got hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
I know he has a healing factor, and like, so he like can't get sick. So it's one of those healing factors that like, against all like germs and stuff like that as well. But I ain't ever seen nothing ever say that he had hypnosis. Huh. That's wild.
Right?
Clearly I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. Where did he get hypnosis? It was in the comic books?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, damn. Okay.
But it's also one of the things like where if he's not interacting with a human or like a regular person, how often does he really need to use it? I mean, if he was interrogating like a familiar, and for anyone who doesn't know, the familiars were the ones that served the vampires. They were like their daytime guardians, and they'd run errands for them and shit like that. They'd be the ones who they're basically, as Blade calls them, they were the blood bitches.
Yeah.
Like if he's a good boy, his master will turn him. But if anybody else tries to bleed this little hooker, they gotta answer to his owner.
Mm-hmm. And see, and again, this is why I also feel like Wesley Snipes played Blade absolutely the best. I'm waiting to see what Mahershala Ali has. I'm super confident it's going to be great because he's an Oscar-winning actor and he's amazing in everything that he's in that I've seen him in so far. But just like with those witty, I don't feel like anybody else at that time could have delivered lines like that. And a lot of those with the swagger, the confidence, and just like the sheer humor in those too. Because I remember hearing that. Mind you, I'm also mad young. I should be hearing stuff like this at that time. But I remember just cracking all the way up. And like he said, he had mad lines in that movie that were just awesome one-liners. That like even till today, if somebody says them to me, I know exactly where they're from and exactly who said it. You know. Now I want to touch on this aspect of Blade that I found really interesting. Because they actually show it a little bit in the movies as well. He actually can speak some of the ancient like vampire language a little bit. I can understand it, which is super super cool. Which even a lot of like young vampires don't know it because like they weren't taught it. It's like you see it all the time with like the ancients and the elders. They all have like this language that they speak back and forth to each other, which sounded like, I would say, like gibberish Latin.
I was gonna say Gaelic, but okay.
Really, because I mean, it literally sounded like the actor was just sitting there saying shit. It sounded like somebody sitting there trying to pretend to speak Japanese, but they were sitting there pretending to speak Spanish or Latin, not even Spanish, like Latin, like Roman Catholic, like yeah, like.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't even. But then there was also a bunch of Russian, and there's a bunch of I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of Russian themes going on in the movie.
Well, it's also one of those things like where if you traveled the world, and it's like, well, you know, what was it? The one chick said in the Mighty Ducks, comparing the United States to other countries, the United States is like a teenager. So it's like you've got like, you know, Eastern Europe, which goes back all the way to the fucking Roman Empire.
This is true.
Right? Yeah. And then it's like, look at Africa and how long its history is. Even Russia or China. So it's like, it would make sense that you'd have more regal areas or areas with longer, deeper history of the world that were experienced or influenced by these creatures of the night. And then it's like, if they had like shit, Caesar could have been a vampire for all we know, as far as that mythology and lore is considered. So it's like, if you had those people who were in that type of power back then who were influencing shit like the way Blade said they did in modern day Manhattan, it would make sense. So So it's like he would probably speak different languages on top of the fact that they traveled all over the place too.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's also like at the end of number one, the little post credit scene, mid credit scene or whatever, when he rolls down on the Frost's like right hand man.
Yeah.
His name. He rolled on him and he was in Moscow. I'm like that. I don't know. I just find so many aspects of this character just so interesting, and like the fact that he, like I said, he can still turn people, even though he's half vampire. He can still turn people.
I was always confused to why he didn't make Daywalkers.
That is a good point, though, and they never explain exactly why he's a Daywalker. They just chalk it up to the fact because he's half human and half vampire.
Honestly,
but wouldn't a half human and half vampire transmit half the vampire genes?
Well, I always took it like the way Nissa said it in the second one, how the Reapers is different from vampires as Blade was from a regular vamp. So in my mind, I'm thinking that Blade himself is like a whole new mutation. Just like how like Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four are technically mutants, but they weren't born with that. They weren't born that way.
They were X gene. They were mutated.
Right? So in my mind, I'm thinking like when Blade was bitten, his body in utero somehow adapted the strain, the virus, the system which the blood was carried to his body and made it work for him. But it came with that side effect for him needed to consume human blood. And the thing that also is really interesting is the fact that like whenever he consumes actual blood, it like quadruples his power.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. Like in the first one, when he first bites Karen, when he first tastes human blood, and he lets out that roar, and you see like his actual teeth and his eyes are dilated. I was like,
and he has like the blood running down. I'm like, oh, man, jumps like 20 stories up.
Frost. Oh God, yeah. It was go time, son. It was like watching Goku go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, and then they pulled it, and then I love the fact that they pulled the same thing again for the final battle when he drops himself into the pool, the blood pool. That when he went to fight
Reinhardt and his men.
Yep. He just the music playing. First off, Crystal Method, they were gods for making that track. That's in there. Like he just raises up out the water, just nothing cover his eyes. It's like his blood is running down his eyes, just looking at him like, yeah, no words, no nothing. It was just an on-site situation.
The thing that always killed me in that fight scene is when he suplexes the last guy. I thought that shit was mad random and hilarious. And then like the way he popped back up after he does it.
It wasn't even a suplex, bro. That wasn't even a suplex. That was I'm not a wrestling guy, but that definitely was a suplex. Is when you're behind them, you wrap your arms around the waist and lift them above and drop them on like the top part of their back or near their neck. That man pulled. It was like not a stunner, not a pile driver. A tombstone. That's what they call it. It was one of the Undertaker movies. He just picks him up straight up and just drops back. Boom. Hit him with a tombstone.
He's like,
And just gets up. Like that's how ruthless. He took time on that last one. He took his time on that last one. He enjoyed that very much. Right. And I just,
I'm sorry. It's just that, like, my whole thing is like, we get the moments where he cuts loose like that. It's like, and like when he enjoys it and he has fun, And it's like, I want to see that, but it's like, I don't think we're going to get that with Mahershala Ali.
No, not at all. Because I think they're gonna roll with a more like sophisticated, more like tactical, more tactical, more conservative Blade this time around, because we got the Hood, we got the Hood Blade, and we got two Hood Blades raised in the streets, whatever. Like, motherfucker, what you think this is, with the attitude and everything? But I think we're gonna, with Ali, we're gonna get a more like laid back, conservative, like tactician. Like, I really feel like we're gonna get more of a Batman type Blade, like comic Batman, not like what we've seen in the movies. No, a Batman that's sitting down at the desk doing the work. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then after he gets that work done, he out there in the streets cracking skulls.
Right. And I'm also tempted to see if they're going to give him the axe to grind, because the thing that was always the driving force for him was revenge because of the whole thing with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you see her in the first one played by Sanaa Lathan, the beautiful, exotic Sanaa Lathan.
Lovely.
Yes. And that scene where they got into that quick scuffle, and how she said that, I'm your mother, we could be together. He's like, we don't have things on to go this way. And then he's like, I must release you. And he runs her through. I was, son, right there. Like, when he watched her die, all you saw was that look in his eyes, like, I'm not done yet. These niggas just made me do this. I'm killing everything I'm about to see next. He grabs his vest, he jumps in the middle of the room, and it was go time.
Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't even feel guilty that he just killed his mother. Like, all that anger and rage was immediately directed towards Frost. Immediately. He didn't feel bad about it at all. Like, he knew exactly, he's like, this is not my fault. I'm just saying, I would have an axe to grind too. First off, you deprived me of my mother my entire life. Got me thinking she's dead. When in reality, you turned into a bloodsucker. And you're probably been smashing her too.
Yeah.
My mother. Yeah, it's go time. And then turn around and make me have to kill her?
Right?
Boy, it's go time. It is go time. Like, there's no questions, no thinking, no none of that on sight.
Like, yeah, you've been hunting me for 50 years, and I had your mom as my little pet. Like,
Sir, what? Sir, what?
He's like, yeah, here we are, one big happy fucking family.
Oh, he did, and he taunted him with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I forgot all about it. And that's what I love so much about the way they wrote that character. He was cocky because he knew he had it. He knew he had it. Like, literally, all he needed was that last drop. No. Actually, no. He actually completed the full ritual. He completed the full transformation, actually.
He did.
And still, I still can't get over that one scene where he's just standing there. He cut him in half or something.
Yeah.
He cut him in half, and he's just standing there, and Frost just like congeals back together, and he looks over his shoulder and just mouths, "What the fuck?" Like, and just a complete like astonishment, and the fact that he whispered it. He didn't even whisper it; it was completely inaudible. He just mouthed it, just because it was exactly what everyone was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen anyone really break that first movie apart and point out anything really wrong with it. I mean, there's probably a lot of things wrong with it, but I would like to go back, sit through it, and like really like look at in the writing. Actually, I look at the writing specifically, because I personally think the writing in that movie was great.
Well, it was another one of them classic cases of it was 20 years ahead of its time. No one had really seen it before, with the dynamic, with the lead, with everything. Like it was literally revolutionary in what it did. Not just for comics, but for movies in general, in my opinion.
Honestly, I can agree with that, especially on the movie aspect of it, because at the time I wasn't even thinking about Marvel. You know, I didn't even know. Again, like I said, I didn't even know he was a Marvel hero because Marvel's tag is nowhere on that movie.
Right.
Maybe I like the end of the credits when he had the Marvel. It was
subtly done.
Symbol.
I think it was one of them things like where they wanted to have their brand on it, but they wanted to be careful about it just in case it was a flop.
No, they weren't banking on it at all. Because at the time, it wasn't them doing the movie. They didn't have the rights to it.
Right.
Blade was one of the rights that they had given to Fox. And New Line was owned by Fox. So it was Fox that was producing the movie through New Line.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a Fox movie.
Right.
So technically they couldn't put their stamp on it. They still needed to put the Marvel Comics stamp on it, but there was no company specific, there was no Marvel Studios at the time.
Right.
So all they could put on it was the actual Marvel Comics logo.
Mm-hmm. And this is the end of the 90s. And here's another big misconception also, is that, everyone talks about, like Marvel and everything Marvel did with the MCU and how, we got 10 plus years of cinematic universe, which is connected together. Marvel was not the first big characters using on the screen like this. I mean, we got the Schwarzenegger, the Predator Schwarzenegger movie. That's comic book based. Sylvester Stallone playing Judge Dredd. That's comic book based. Let's not forget the Ninja Turtles. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was comic book based. Shit, Dolph Lundgren has a Punisher movie from the 90s.
Oh, yeah, he does. Speaking of that, there's been so many other heroes that we've seen now that are in the MCU that have already had movies before.
Right.
There was an old
Let's not forget that Nick Fury movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with Hasselhoff.
Yup.
Yeah, there was a Doctor Strange movie already. There was a Captain America movie already. Of course, everyone knows about the Incredible Hulk show with Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
And then, of course, bring back to Arnold Schwarzenegger again, Hercules.
Yeah, that too.
Because technically, Arnold Schwarzenegger's first movie in America was Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him reprise the role of Hercules in Thor versus Hercules. So technically, the version of Thor the version of Hercules he plays is the Marvel Hercules.
Right.
From the Marvel Olympian Pantheon. So we've seen Hercules too.
Mm-hmm.
So people got to remember, all this was already done before.
I think it was just one of them cases, the issue that they had way back when was, if it was aimed towards children, it had to be light and have a fun tone to it. We're 90s kids. We grew up watching shit like the Three Ninjas and the Power Rangers. So it's you had the Kung Fu aspect, which was cool. And then the stuff that they did and the Zords and the morphing. And then with the with the Ninja Turtles, you had, the weapons, the mutation. And it's but people felt like that first movie was too violent. That first movie is my favorite movie ever, period.
The Ninja Turtles?
Yes, the original one.
Oh, absolutely. Hands down. The second one was, what was that? It was alright.
The second one got catered more towards children, but that went against the source material. That's why that series ends the way it does. And I think
Yeah.
like that's one of them things like with Blade, like they let that shit be dark. They let it be edgy. Like the whole thing with the vamps, they weren't let it scared to let them be like monstrous or grotesque. Like the shit they were
They
doing,
openly showed blood. Openly showed blood.
right? Shit.
Isn't
Deacon Frost tears the one dude's whole throat open.
right? Right? And not only that, they literally was in a rave that was raining blood. They had a man literally on the floor covered in blood. Remember the body farm from number 2?
That was number three, actually.
3.
And the funny thing is, that was also supposed to be in number 1.
Yeah. I remember they pulled it because that was supposed to be Frost's body farm.
Yes. Because Karen asked him, where's the food supply going to be if the blood god comes and turns everyone? And then he takes her to like a room and shows her the premise for like the blood farm. And he was like, oh, I've already got that covered. And I was like, see, and that's another thing. Like, once again, see, they cut little things out to save them for later or use them at another time and it's also like, we can let shit be dark, but shit can only be so dark before the rating changes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big Chronicles of Riddick fan.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Like, I love Vin Diesel playing that character and how, like, that first one was good. It set a premise, but the second one wound up being rated PG, and the reason why they made it PG was because they didn't want to limit the audience by making it rated R. Because if once you make a movie rated R, sort of a parent taking a child, the kid can't sit through it alone.
Yeah.
Now, in modern times, if it's got enough of a following or if it's got enough buzz, that could still work. And especially with the whole streaming network now, it's not even necessary.
Mm-hmm. Because you can easily make this a streaming only movie, and you can make it and it can be unrated.
Right.
It can be which I find really interesting, and I want them to start releasing like the unrated versions of movies on the streaming.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I know they started doing it, but I feel like I don't know. I just wish it was a little more interactive, and that's what I would like to see. Because I think the Blade movies are on. What are they on now? What streaming service are they on right now?
I want to say HBO Max.
That's interesting because I would definitely like them to be on HBO Max because they're rated R. But also Disney Plus has also opened up, set up their rating system now. So now you can black out certain things and not all kid stuff because they added the Netflix shows on there that are definitely rated TVMA. Right?
I mean, think about it. Would you want your son going to school talking to girls about coffee?
My dad told my mom that they were going to have coffee at 10 o'clock at night. Isn't that weird, Susan? Yeah, my mommy drinks coffee in the middle of the day. Sometimes she drinks coffee with Uncle Jim. Really?
I'm telling you, man, it writes itself.
Little Jerome's like, really? Because my mom drinks coffee with Uncle Jim. With your Uncle Jim, too. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it on that silence on that one.
Right.
Yeah, so, see now, and I really want to express this right now because we're getting towards the end of this. I want to express this. Because I've been, this entire time I've been talking about how I'm really excited, I'm really happy, I really can't wait to see Marshall Ali play Blade, but I'm also highly, highly, highly nervous after watching Multiverse of Madness and seeing how essentially they took a movie that should have been rated R. If it was rated R, it would have been, I feel like it would have been good. But Blade needs to be rated R. That's like making Deadpool PG. Like, it doesn't work that way. Blade needs to be rated R because of the subject. He's literally working with actual monsters. These aren't big purple aliens. These are creatures of the night that feed off of other people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of gore and grotesque that has to come along with this in order to really nail it. You know, to put the nail in the coffin on that one.
Right.
All pun intended.
Oh God. Well, my biggest thing is like a movie can be shot great, the story can be decent, it can be original, but it's like there has to be like, for example, Hugh Jackman, Van Helsing. I thought that movie was good, but it bothered the shit out of me because no one was torn to shreds.
Even the werewolf transformation wasn't gory at all. It was as if he was ripping off their skin. There's no blood, no none of that. Like I'd say it was very much censored. Great movie, absolutely, but very much censored. I
Once again, the CGI, the makeup, the way they did Frankenstein, I thought it was different. It was cool. It was edgy.
It was great. Yeah.
It was shot beautifully.
Frankenstein.
But it's one of them things like you had the Wolfman, Dracula, all three of his brides, Frankenstein's monster,
and the Mummy cameo,
right? With Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and no one's torn to shreds. Come on, man.
I mean, okay, hold up. All we get is Mr. Hyde's arm being cut off, and that's it. And there's no blood.
Right.
Like, we have Hugh Jackman being bit by a werewolf. Where's the blood? You have vampire women lifting cows into the air, tossing them, lifting people up by their feet in angle, and nobody's head pops off? So again, this is where that's perfect because that leads exactly to what I'm saying. Like, it's going to be different to not see. The whole point of Blade was to introduce that dark side of Marvel. And go ahead.
No, you finish your thought. Go ahead.
And I feel like it's going to be weird for Marvel to do this. Now, if they had Sony do it, that would make sense again because they have Morbius. They could run with that. But for Marvel to be helming this, one, you already know it's going to be PG-13. Kevin Feige refuses to go rated R in anything that he has his hands on, which is why I feel weird about Deadpool. What they're going to do with Deadpool? You know what I mean? This is my idea. I say we have Marvel Studios, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, a while back, when they decided to make that absolutely god-awful Ghost Rider 2 Spirit of Vengeance, I feel like, and I don't know if anyone checked this out, maybe it's a Mandela effect, but as it opens up, it has a Marvel moniker. But the moniker is Marvel Knights instead of Marvel. My idea is branch off. If you don't want to give it to Sony, that's fine. You ain't got to give it to Sony. Branch off. You have Marvel Studios, but then you have Marvel Knights. And Marvel Knights can be the platform or the studios where same people, but different moniker, just to take it away from your main Disney stuff. You know, in that way you can do your rated R movies over there, dark movies over there. You can have your Ghost Riders. You have your, you can even have your Doctor Stranges over there. You can have your Blade over there. The rest of the Marvel Knights you can have over there, all the dark characters that fall into mythology and stuff like that. You can have them over there, and make them rated R. So,
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that's a great idea.
But will they? No, because Feige, I mean, he annoys me, but you can't be mad at the man who keeps making greatness.
I can be upset about it if it goes against the source material and it's not the story I know.
Yeah, that right there. Yeah, you can go against that. But you can go against him on it because he greenlit it. So, yeah.
I didn't like Tom Holland playing Spider-Man until the last one.
Yeah, he had to grow on me. I liked him after the second one. After Far From Home, that's when that's when I really started. I was like, all right, not bad. But yeah, and so I just really hope that first off, Mahershala Ali, he's an amazing actor, right? Blade is an amazing character. And so I feel like they have a great matching there.
Right.
I just hope that they do right by the character, 2, do right by the actor, and 3, do right by the man who kicked it all off, Wesley Snipes, because from what I have found out is that it was Wesley that even brought the idea of doing another Blade to them.
Yeah.
He had brought it to them years ago before he had showed up in Expendables. He had brought them two ideas, a movie and a TV show. So this is them taking the movie idea that he gave them. So I just feel like they just have to do right by the character, by the source material, by the actor. I just hope so.
Right.
And then I'm definitely going to go watch the anime later as well.
Right. Well, also the questions I have is, because they're keeping a lot of stuff under wraps. They haven't really made a lot of stuff public or talked about it. Because the questions I have about the series is that we know Mahershala Ali is Blade, but that's all we know. Are they even going to use Abraham Whistler? Is Deacon Frost the bad guy for this one? Who is he dealing with? Because if they open up with him hunting Dracula, they might be shooting themselves in the foot right there. But it's like, if they
go ahead.
But it's like if they build towards it, like, all right, maybe he went to go prove himself to Whistler. He wants to hunt down Morbius. Morbius winds up being more than he can chew. Morbius bites him. He reacts, and then it becomes like a war between the two of them. And it's more like sort of like a chess match between like Kida and Light in Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, like, just like how we talked about, like, why doesn't Blade make Daywalkers? Like, what happens if Morbius starts fighting people? Or there was a whole arc in the Spider-Man cartoon where Blade's mother tried to make more living vampires.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of material, there's a lot of things they could do. My question is, how dark is this going to be? Who's playing opposite him? And what story angles are they going to touch on? Because, like, the whole thing with Multiverse of Madness that upset the fuck out of me is they did this whole thing with Wanda being the bad guy with the whole M-Day thing, and, like, we never introduced the mutants. Yeah, there was no build up to it. This is me being reasonable. No, this is someone else dropping the ball.
Absolutely. So what I was gonna say about the whole him hunting Dracula thing, I'd actually be cool if they open it up with him hunting Dracula as his main objective. But of course, there's a little, there's always a motherfucker trying to ice skate uphill that he got to handle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I would like that because I would like to see. I don't want an origin. God, don't let this be an origin. Don't want an origin. What I want to see is a seasoned Blade, a seasoned character Blade, who's already been here, done that, fought this, fought that. So we can even have him already be in, already be in a battle with Frost, already be on the hunt for Dracula, have it, since we haven't seen him interact with Morbius yet, we can have this take place after he has an encounter with Morbius, which that way we can lead, that opens up Morbius, that gives, those Sony a bone there, that they have some that they can lead up to. But yeah, as seasoned later on in life type Blade, because that's what he's sounding like in that end cutscene with the Black Knight. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's like, "Are you ready for that? Are you sure you're ready for that? Because I've seen some shit, and some shit I'm not even ready for. Are you sure you ready for that?" So it definitely sounds like we're going to be getting a older, seasoned, and I would like it to see if, he's already accomplished these things. But again, same questions arise. Who's going to be acting opposite him? Who is the villain? What's the storyline? So, I don't know. I guess we shall see. Was it Blade's like what, late phase 4 or like start of phase 5?
I want to say it was phase 4, maybe start of phase 5, because the whole Multiverse of Madness thing was supposed to kick off the supernatural monster aspect of the MCU. But they're still trying to debate and cast, or at least they haven't made it public knowledge over who's playing certain parts. Just like how, if you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I know you did, we already saw the Ghost Rider Robbie Ramirez.
Mm-hmm. Robbie Reyes.
And I liked that kid who played him. I think he did a great job.
Great. Yeah.
I was a little off by him driving the Charger. I'm not gonna lie.
It's because the graphics on the Charger was like a little off. Because that's what his character does. That's actually that version of Ghost Rider. He actually rides a Charger.
Okay.
I love the fact that they added in that specific Charger was a leftover Charger from Fast and Furious 1. They make that loud and clear known in the show.
Interesting.
That he specifically went to try to find that specific Charger and found it. Yeah, so it's early when they're still trying to, before we even meet Robbie Reyes. Before it was like after we see the whole first scene when he catches the dude, before we actually get fully introduced to him, when they're still trying to make that first meeting with him, that's what we end up finding out. Because he buys it from a junkyard, and the junkyard dude said, "Yeah, it's one of those old. It's really unique. It's an old Charger from the Fast and Furious set." So I like that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they got going on. But yeah, man. Let's call it on that. Thank y'all for coming to another episode of the Super Breakdown, where we take your favorite heroes, favorite villains, break them down, build them back up, and give you guys a multiverse of possibilities. Definitely please stay tuned next week. Hopefully we'll be able to get that Dr. Doom one out to you with a special guest. I'm not going to say anything. Mum's the word. But we definitely will have a special guest host on that one. So please like, comment, subscribe, share, let your peoples know. You guys love comics. You guys love heroes and anything. Now remember, this is not just comic books, man. You have a show or movie or something like that with a hero, with a villain, with a protagonist or antagonist. By all means, drop us a line, drop a comment. We'll take a look at them, see if we can get them on the show. Got anything to say, Triage?
I would just like to say that this has always been a pleasure, and I can't wait to go over the next character.
All right, y'all. See you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.